Hey, Jim, I was just reading about all that AT&T spinoff and stuff.
Is everybody's microphone okay?
I don't know, I didn't.
Okay. Okay. This is a public hearing. I'll read the legal notice of the public hearing for the Board of Selectmen for Wednesday, May 26, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. We are in the Buck Foreman Community Room at 265 Main Street, Portland, Connecticut. Pursuant to Section 503F and 506 of the Town Charter and Section 7-163E of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Portland Board of Selectmen shall hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 26, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. in the Buck Foreman Community Center to consider public comments and questions, both orally and in writing, on the proposed lease of the Portland landfill, which is located at 39 Sand Hill Road, known as the landfill, for the development of a commercial scale solar photovoltaic array. The public hearing will be followed by a special town meeting to consider and vote upon whether to enter into a binding option agreement with DSD Renewables and execute all necessary documents, including a lease with DSD Renewables necessary for the development of the solar project. A copy of the proposed special town meeting resolution is available for public inspection on file in the town clerk's office and online at www.portlandct.org. This was dated the 11th day of May, 2021 by myself, Susan S. Bransfield, first select woman. And I'm just going to ask Nick to make sure you are recording this meeting. Thank you. So as is our tradition for the public hearing, I will open it up for any questions or comments there may be from the audience at this point.
We have none on Zoom.
None on Zoom, okay. I have asked our consultants, Clee Associates, to be prepared to answer any questions. And I think during the town meeting, we'll make a short synopsis of the project, if that's okay with everyone. So we'll leave the public hearing open for a few minutes. Andy, did you have any comments or questions?
No questions, just...
If you wanted to make any comments, could you kindly go to our podium, Mr. Bauer? State your address, please.
Andy Bauer, 256 Old Marlboro Turnpike in Portland. I chair the Portland Community Task Force. So I just wanted to thank the Portland Selectmen, for your leadership on this. And also, it's been a while, coming. We've been talking about like large arrays for a few years at least. and it's really nice to come to see it come to fruition. So that's all I got. Just a nod to Bob Shea as well for his diligence in looking through all the details and his support as well. That's what I got.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom?
Lou is saying that he has video but can't get the audio to work. He's going to continue to try.
I'm sorry to hear that.
He has video but no audio.
During the meeting, he can feel free to call my cell phone and I'll be able to have him listen in that
Yeah, if he
way.
has something to say, have him call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have him call if he wants to say anything.
Recording in progress.
It's a new feature.
So there's a friend of mine who was trying to get it done. I'm just going to go and open the door and say, over here. Walk through the no admittance sign.
Hello. Hi, how are you? Okay, well, I will leave you on with the phone so that you can hear. At this point, Lou, there is no one making any comments. Okay, so you can just hold. Okay. Okay, thank you. This has to do with the binding option. Does it not? To enter into a binding option to lease the binding option is for a term of up to 3 years with payments to the town each year. So if they decide not to do it every year, somebody's that amount. Item 2 is to approve and authorize the town to execute a town testing that DSD through the binding option has control of. And then 3 is to approve and authorize the town clerk and acting officers to enter into the lease for a term not less than 2 years. So this was the legal notice of the town. Up to 3 years. It is, but it's only for that binding option. It's not for the contract.
Well, no.
It's only if they have up to 3 years to put it in. So they have a binding option for 3 years.
Friday shows 79%. So those who have the option. Cloudy on Sunday. And then if they decide to do it, then they
There was some question, and maybe Rob Clee can cover this later. There was a question, Rob, about the items that were noticed in terms of the difference among the binding option, the affidavit, and the contract itself. If you'd like to give that as some testimony, that would be helpful now during the public hearing. Jim had that question.
Yeah, actually was gonna ask
Yeah.
that.
Because it's really three matters that are going to be discussed. Thank you. If you could just introduce yourself for the record, Rob.
Sure can. I guess we're evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rob Klee of Klee Sustainability Advisors, and I have been working along with my colleague at CSW Energy in helping facilitate the RFP for solar on the Portland landfill, and then will serve as counsel to the town of Portland through the entire process of once you've found a dance partner, so to speak, to go forward in the state's Shared Clean Energy Facilities Program, which is a state-run program that provides financial support for solar developments like the one contemplated at your landfill. And that's where the items that are part of the special meeting, the authorization for the first select woman on behalf of the town to enter into those three different sort of legal instruments. This is done because that Shared Clean Energy Facilities Program there is available to solar developers, but they have to demonstrate that the land on which they're going to build their solar array is actually something that they are authorized to build on. And that's why there are these three related documents. The first is the binding option agreement, which gives that developer that right to do the development. And when we get to the special meeting, I'll also talk about the process, the RFP, the things that we did to come amongst the 6 different bidders to this particular bidder. But jumping forward, we've now selected that bidder to go forward. When they're submitting their application to that state funding program, they need to have that option agreement binding that they have the right to develop the solar. Then as part of the requirements for that program, they specifically require that they've actually given a template of an affidavit from the landowner, in this case, the town, saying, yes, that developer has the right to develop the land on this property. So those are the 2 key pieces that get your dance partner, the solar developer, into that Shared Clean Energy program and eligible in that competitive process. Then hopefully they will have a strong bid. There is no guarantee, but we are hopeful that they will do well. That's where, if they are selected in that state funding program, they then will have won that right to go forward with those state incentives. That gets to the third item on your list, which is the long-term lease. So if they are successful in getting that state funding and financing, only then would you enter into the 20-year lease with that developer. So the first 2 are, yes, they have the legitimate legal right to do this development at the Portland Town landfill. And then only if they're successful in that state funding program do you then enter into the long-term lease. I'll pause there. I'm happy to answer any questions that members have.
Rick?
So what if they're not successful in getting that state grant or whatever approval? Then what options do we have?
So great question. The Shared Clean Energy Program has been authorized by the legislature as a 5-year program. This is year 2 of 5. And so there is the opportunity, if their bid doesn't work in this year 2 solicitation, they have a binding option agreement. They could come back again next year, though that is something we'd have to really discuss, because many of those programs are designed they are competitive, and each year they may be getting more and more competitive. So we'd have to think about if their bid didn't work this year, what would it look like a year from now? But those would be things that we would discuss with the developer. So that is one option.
So if we end up not being successful with this DSD renewables, then their option after 3 years runs out and we could start over, or then out of that 5-year SCF program timeframe.
Well, so a couple of options. So we could, as part of that option agreement, they may also decide if they aren't successful. I can't speak for them.
Yeah.
They may not want to try it again for the next year, and that might relieve us of the town of that obligation. My sense is that we would have those discussions with them and sort of figure out if they are unsuccessful, what the next steps are. And beyond that shared clean energy facilities program, there are other state programs and for the building of commercial scale solar, which could be things that we could look into should this path not be successful. There are other paths for developing solar on your landfill.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I'll ask a question.
Sure.
Do you I think I know the answer, but I want to hear. Do you think we have a strong application that will be moving forward in this process?
Thank you, First Selectwoman. Yes, I do. I think we do. And I think part of it, and I'm happy to talk about it now in the public hearing. I could talk about it as well at the town meeting. The process through which we went out to the solar developer market with this opportunity to build commercial solar on your landfill was meant to attract competitive bids, and we did. We got 6 competitive bidders from across the region, including some local, some large national companies, and they did a part of that process was to try to have them really sharpen their pencils and be very sort of clear with us what they would bid into that competitive state funding and financing program. So we were evaluating them on the strength of their likely bid into that next step. And that's kind of the sort of balancing act that you wanted to find a dance partner that would have positive economic benefit to the town in terms of the lease payments and payments in lieu of taxes, but not have the amount to the town make their bid into that competitive program creep up higher and higher. And we did have insight in what last year's bids were and sort of use those as a benchmark to try to understand how, relatively speaking, they would stack up against the competition. Another thing worth noting is that this shared clean energy program administered by the state and the utilities has a bonus sort of incentive for landfills. So they have in their evaluation criteria, it's actually a 20% bonus for being sited on a landfill or a brownfield, sorry. So last time around, they didn't actually have any of those as winners, and they were disappointed by that. So disappointed that they actually revealed the amount of that incentive, so everyone now knows that bonus incentive is there. So we think we picked one that has a fairly good chance of being competitive. The one thing we don't know is how many other bidders are out there, how many other towns and other places or elsewhere, and how aggressive those bidders will be, because there is a limit for, it's, I believe, 20 megawatts per year for Eversource territory, which is where you are. So it will likely still be competitive, but we think we picked a really strong partner for the town, including that they have extensive experience of doing these commercial developments, including on landfills, and a really strong team that we've been meeting with as well.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Nick, are there any? Okay. So I'm going to close the public hearing.
Thank you all.
6:51 p.m. and we will, the selectmen will take the audience and our town clerk, and we'll have a moderator for the town meeting. Yeah. You may as well stay here, Jen. Hi, Ryan.
Hello.
We got the seat heated up for you here.
All right. Well, we got a-
And Lou Pear is on my phone.
Wouldn't mind coming up and signing your name and address on this form and then taking a ballot with you. Yeah, that's my family. It's not me, but yeah. Yep. That's probably my uncle. But yeah, that's yeah. Cool. Yeah, I know. I get that a lot. Same because he's like 20 years older than I am. I mean, but he's the best. Yeah. He would love to hear you say that. I'll let him know. So I guess it's are you yeah. So that's yeah. How you been, sir? Good. Good. It's been a while here. Oh man, especially right? Yeah. Yeah. When's your last day? Just yeah. Virtual class. Yeah. UVLA really didn't have a full spectrum of available courses. So to take what she wanted to take in college, she had to take. So she had a history class, honors level class. Oh my God. There's a certain amount of like certain amount of licenses that we have. So people use it. This is the PhD next year. People should be going to school. The VHS program is a class she wants to take. It's not offered. So I would imagine that for a teacher from South Korea is not coming out next year. That wouldn't look good. Yeah. But it was, she did like, she did something that the teacher did a really good job. But she found the class was a lot of hammer than the other side. Because of how it's structured, it's 15 is the second half of the year, it's 15. So not only was it the honors class, then it was, then it was compressed. Yeah. And she was pretty very so much. Hey, I like that idea of the selectors flashback. I think you guys we've already been
I will say this, I'm a bit worried about, I was gonna turn on as I was walking over it. It's right on my phone. All right, you got one of those, right, Ralph?
Yeah.
We're gonna make that assumption.
Say what? All right, so. Everyone signed in that and got a ballot that wants to vote, just making sure before we start. And look, so I don't know where the buddy box is that we used to have. We used to use all our votes.
The wood one?
No, we have that. Oh my gosh, here we go.
It's the Darby's. How are you? Good to see you. How are you doing? How's school? Have you been done virtual or were you away? Still good. Virtual all last semester. I mean, this last year. But she's doing what she does. Yeah. She's doing good. She's having fun. Involved with on her. Still doing performing. She's still doing band plays and musicals. But she's doing good. I'm glad you're doing well. I'll let her know you asked about it. How are you? Good. Good to see you.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it's funny. We were outside. It was hard to recognize people after all this time. And I just said, I'll hook your head. We're doing it.
Alright, so I made a makeshift box. That way I didn't have to bring them.
You didn't have to bring the bit. Well, last time we had 3 ballots in the last one. Now this,
A little over. So this is
Brian, the winner will always be the land purchase.
oh my God. We're having to go get more ballots.
Yes, that and
That was
intense. All right.
I'm assuming you're gonna do the readings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm losing supposed.
Yeah.
I know sometimes on the,
You can waive them sometimes, yeah, but yeah.
there are sometimes they get, these aren't too bad.
No. Now, the real
You know what?
one is photovoltaic.
Photovoltaic. Yep.
You ready? All right, the time is 7:02, and I will now call this a special town meeting to order. The first order of business is to elect a moderator. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Jim Tripp.
Thank you. Are there any seconds? Ralph, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion to close nominations? Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Ralph. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Moderator, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. I'm going to read the call of the meeting into the record as it was published in the River East on May 14th, 2021. I'm also going to ask, we have the return of notice. I'll ask the town clerk to record the return of notice as well. Legal notice of special town meeting dated Wednesday, May 26, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the Buck Foreman Community Room, 265 Main Street, Portland, Connecticut, 06480. The electors and those persons eligible to vote in the town meetings of the town of Portland, Connecticut are hereby warned and notified that pursuant to section 503F of the town charter, a special town meeting will be held by the Board of Selectmen on May 26, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the Buck Foreman Community Center to consider and vote upon whether the town shall, 1, enter into a binding option agreement, 2, execute an affidavit of site control, and 3, enter into a long-term ground lease in support of the development of a commercial-scale solar photovoltaic array at the Portland landfill, located at 39 Sand Hill Road, and then in parentheses, the landfill, as described below. Item 1, to approve and authorize the town of Portland, acting through its first selectwoman, to enter into a binding option agreement with DSD Renewables to lease the landfill to development a commercial-scale photovoltaic array thereon. The binding option to lease is for a term of up to 3 years, with payments to the town of $2,000 for the first year, up to $2,500 for the second year, and up to $3,000 for the third year. This binding option agreement is a required element of the DSD Renewables application to the state's competitive shared clean energy facilities, in parentheses, SCEF program. Item 2, to approve and authorize the town of Portland, acting through its first selectwoman, to execute an affidavit attesting that DSD Renewables, through the binding option agreement, has appropriate control over the landfill in support of DSD Renewables' application to the state's competitive SCEF program. This affidavit from the town as landowner is a required element of DSD Renewables' application to the state's competitive SCEF program. Item 3, to approve and authorize the town of Portland, acting through its first selectwoman, to enter into a lease with DSD Renewables for a term of not less than 20 years to develop a commercial-scale solar array on the landfill if DSD Renewables is successful in the state's competitive SCEF program. A copy of the complete resolution to be voted on is available for public inspection in the town clerk's office and on the town website at www.portlandct.org, dated this 11th day of May, 2021, and attested to by Susan S. Bransfield, first selectwoman. I'll now entertain a motion to introduce the resolution entitled proposed lease of the Portland landfill for the development of a commercial scale solar photovoltaic array.
I have a resolution and I move it, I make the motion.
Okay, motion has been made. Do I have a second?
Who's second?
Who's second? Thank you, Ian. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. I will now read the resolution. Okay, special town meeting resolution, Town of Portland, Connecticut, dated May 26, 2021. Proposed lease of the Portland landfill for the development of a commercial scale solar photovoltaic array. Whereas the town recently conducted a competitive request for proposals, RFP, for solar developers interested in leasing the Portland landfill located at 39 Sand Hill Road, now in parentheses, now the landfill, for at least 20 years in order to build a solar array using financial incentives from the state's Shared Clean Energy Facilities, SCEF program, also known as Shared Solar. And whereas the RFP attracts 6 bids from qualified solar developers from throughout the region, among a number of factors in the evaluation process, the town weighed the 20 years of lease payments and or payments in lieu of taxes, pilot, to the town against the likelihood that the solar developer will actually be successful in the state's competitive SCEF program. And whereas the town has made its preliminary selection of a solar developer, DSD Renewables of Schenectady, New York. DSD Renewables has extensive experience developing commercial scale solar installations throughout the Northeast and nationwide, including on landfills. DSD Renewables bid included annual lease payments and annual pilot payments paid to the town each year for at least 20 years. According to their bid, the total payments from DSD Renewables to the town over 20 years will be approximately $1 million. And whereas the town will work with DSD Renewables in support of their application to the state's competitive SCEF program, which is due on June 14th, 2021. However, there is no guarantee that DSD Renewables' commercial scale solar project on the landfill will be selected in the state's competitive SCEF program. And whereas, in support of the development of this commercial scale solar photovoltaic array at the landfill, the town seeks approval to enter into a binding option agreement with DSD Renewables, execute an affidavit attesting that DSD Renewables has control over the landfill site, and enter into a long-term ground lease with DSD Renewables if they are successful in their application to the state's SCEF program. And whereas pursuant to sections 503F and 506 of the town charter and section 7-163E of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Portland Board of Selectmen held a public hearing on Wednesday, May 26, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. to obtain public comments and questions on the proposed lease of the landfill for the development of a commercial scale solar photovoltaic array. And whereas pursuant to section 503F of the town charter, the Portland Board of Selectmen held a special town meeting on May 26, 2021 at 7 p.m. for the approval of the town to one, enter into a binding option agreement, 2, execute an affidavit of site control, and 3, enter into a long-term ground lease in support of the development of a commercial scale solar photovoltaic array at the landfill. Now therefore be it resolved that the Portland Board of Selectmen hereby finds that leasing the Portland landfill for a commercial scale solar development would deploy clean energy in the town, would provide a financial benefit to the town, and would use town property that has few other suitable uses. And be it further resolved that the Board of Selectmen approve and authorize the first selectwoman for the benefit of the town to enter into a binding option agreement to lease the landfill in support of the development of a commercial scale solar photovoltaic array on the landfill. The binding option to lease will be granted to DSD Renewables, a solar developer that was selected from a number of qualified bidders in a competitive RFP process. The binding option to lease is for a term of up to 3 years, with payments to the town of $2,000 for the first year, up to $2,500 for the second year, and up to $3,000 for the third year. This binding option agreement is a required element of DSD Renewables' application to the state's competitive SCEF program, which provides financial incentives for commercial scale solar arrays. And be it further resolved that the Board of Selectmen approve and authorize the first selectwoman for the benefit of the town to execute an affidavit attesting that DSD Renewables has site control over the landfill in support of DSD Renewables application to the state's competitive SCEF program. This affidavit from the town as the landowner is a required element of DSD Renewables application to the state's competitive SCEF program. And be it further resolved that the Board of Selectmen approve and authorize the first selectwoman for the benefit of the town to enter into a long-term ground lease with DSD Renewables for a term not less than 20 years to develop a commercial scale solar array on the landfill. To develop a commercial scale solar array on the landfill if DSD Renewables is successful in the state's competitive SCEF program. Under this long-term lease, DSD Renewables would pay the town annual lease payments and annual pilot payments for at least 20 years. The total payments to the town over 20 years will be approximately $1 million. And I'd like to open up for public discussion. Nice.
I would like to ask that our town consultant, Mr. Robert Lease, give us the synopsis of the project.
Robert, how do you spell your last name?
It's K-L-E-E.
Thank you.
And thank you, First Selectwoman, and thank you, members of the Board of Selectmen. Thank you, members of the Town of Portland. Thank you to Andy Bauer and the Clean Energy Task Force, and to the Portland town staff, all of whom have been provided tremendous support to get us to tonight. So my name again is Robert Klee. I'm of Klee Sustainability Advisors and the former Commissioner of Energy and Environmental Protection for the state of Connecticut, though now in private practice, as well as a lecturer at my alma mater down at Yale. I have worked alongside Alan Sabins of CSW Energy, who is in the audience with us here tonight. And we have helped the town facilitate a competitive request for proposals to attract those bidders who are interested in developing solar on your landfill. And as the resolution itself laid out, that was a key element of our process, was to make sure that we could provide to the market a clear understanding of what is possible in terms of solar development at the landfill, and then attract bidders knowing that opportunity that the landfill presented, attract bids that were comparable, that we could actually go through a process of comparing truly apples to apples of the bids that came in. That RFP was released back in February, and we've worked since then to come to a preliminary selection of DSD Renewables out of Schenectady, New York, a regional and national solar developer with extensive experience in building solar at commercial scale, including on landfills. And the evaluation process, which we did in conjunction with the town, and again with the support of town staff, which was tremendous throughout that process, was really looking at the bids as they came in and striking that balance between the pilot payments and lease payments each year to the town for leasing your landfill for 20 years versus their ability to be successful in that state shared clean energy facilities program or shared solar program, which is a state developed program that provides financial incentives to build commercial scale solar. As I mentioned at the public hearing, that program actually has bonus points, so to speak, for solar that's developed on landfills and brownfields. So your landfill here at Portland is particularly attractive. The size of the system that will likely go in is about a little under 2 megawatts AC. And as I talked about in the resolution itself, those 20 years of pilot payments and lease payments will total approximately $1 million over the 20 years. Now, the Shared Clean Energy Facilities Program, it is currently open for bidders to submit, and that is their bids are due on June 14th. Hence, having this public hearing and town meeting in advance of that time, because there are two key elements, two of the three key elements that you're voting on today are required elements for that state program. So the town needs to have a binding agreement with your selected developer that shows that, yes, they are the ones that have the right to develop solar on the Portland landfill. That's number one, and that's item number one for tonight's special town meeting. Item number two, which flows from the option agreement, is that the first selectwoman on behalf of the town has to submit an affidavit, so a legal document swearing under a penalty of perjury that, yes, the developer that you've selected does have the right to develop solar on the landfill. Those are actually some of the key boxes that the state and Eversource have to check when they are evaluating the bidders into that shared clean energy program. So that is a competitive program, and there will be multiple bidders, but we believe, working with the town and being thoughtful, we have tried to strike that right balance of a developer that will provide good financial benefits to an otherwise unused piece of property in town, but also one that will have some of the better chances of being successful ultimately in that competitive state program. So fingers crossed. We will know by the end of the summer, but we will work with the developer to get their bid in on time and have it in consideration. If they are successful, then comes the third item for you tonight. If they are successful and do get that state financial incentives, you will then be able to enter into a long-term lease for the 20 years of the landfill. So for Selectwoman, I hope that's a good synopsis of both our process and a bit of what you're voting on today, and a little bit about the next steps going forward should this be successful tonight, and how we will work with that developer to hopefully deliver on clean energy on your landfill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kling.
One other thing I just wanted to thank Andrew Bauer, along with all the members of the community task force. They've really done a great job over many years in bringing us to tonight, and I think it's really, really important to have the team of as many of our citizens that are here tonight. I hope that you will vote in support of this motion. I think it's very important for our town, and I think our community task force for shepherding us for many years. Those are here, those are not here. Thank the Board of Selectmen for their encouragement, as well as our town staff, our finance director, Tom Robinson and Bob Shea, who oversee the landfill operation along with all of our staff. And they're very encouraged by this project. So I want to thank our town staff. All our citizens support our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comment? Any other questions?
Sorry. Now, could you give us the instructions for voting? Are we voting on the entire resolution, or we're not voting separately for the different items? I'm assuming that one vote will be the entire motion. Can you clarify that, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, I will clarify that. An affirmative vote will approves the entire resolution. So we're voting on the resolution in its entirety. You're welcome. Any other questions? Any other commentary? All right, if there's none, we are ready to proceed to a vote. So
Everyone should have.
the yellow piece of paper, ballot.
Where is the box?
The box is right here. It's our newly created ballot box. Thank you.
I have a pen.
We've been doing this for years. We'll get it right. Power of
Getting used to it over here. You guys have a lot of town meetings lately. Just thinking about it, I don't remember having this many town meetings, in the past several years. I feel like we've had a lot lately.
We've had a lot lately.
Because we got one next week. We had one last month, plus the budget. The town, our annual town meeting.
They all came together.
Yeah,
What's happening is
it's
coming
just
in.
funny.
So.
Is that everyone? Did everyone vote? So we'll start counting. All right. Oh, yeah. Yes, and yeah, I gotta go.
All right, the vote was 19 yes, 0 votes no, no abstentions, so the motion passes. Is there a motion to close the meeting? Yeah, motion's been made. Do I have a second? All in favor? All opposed? This meeting's adjourned.
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Rick Shack,
Rick, thank you.
meeting adjourned at 7:23.
7:23.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.